The way American media covers attacks in Paris or Brussels is often different from how it covers similar attacks in places like Beirut or Ankara.
Landmarks the world over lit for France.
This neighborhood is a stronghold of Hezbollah, the Lebanese militia fighting alongside Bashar al-Assad's regime in Syria.
So it makes you think, this bias is unfair and it's getting old. But why does it happen?
When American journalists cover the world, they very often sort of suffer from a kind of a cultural bias. I think we're more likely to identify with other countries for which we have a cultural affinity.
So a disaster in England will likely get more coverage than a similar disaster in Indonesia. Unfortunately, there's also the expectation that there will be an attack in Syria or Pakistan or Lebanon or Kenya. But France and Belgium, that's new and seems a little close to home. And yes, in addition to whatever cultural bias may be at play, there's also the issue of limited resources in newsrooms, as well as the growing pressures of a 24-hour news cycle that relies on clicks, shares, and likes. Not to mention, anything that seems repetitive can also start to get old for audiences. But not all newsrooms operate this way.
When you read a newspaper in Brazil or Singapore or Denmark, you learn quickly how more complete the coverage of the world is than in American news organizations.
And the thing is, because the media is in the business of information, what's put out and how it's put out affects how people react. And it also has an effect on how audiences ultimately empathize with cities and with victims. For instance, whenever a Shia neighborhood in Beirut is bombed, it's referred to as a Hezbollah stronghold, despite it being a civilian area. It almost seems like a justification. Whereas we'd never refer to Brussels as a NATO stronghold, because that would take the focus off the people who were senselessly killed. So it's not just about the frequency of violence or the lack thereof or its novelty, but also about how people are more prone to empathize with victims they can see themselves in. It's that empathy that then becomes a call for prayers, a tinted profile picture, or even support for barring certain people from entering the country.
If we're ignorant about other parts of the world, we as Americans will wind up making bad decisions at the ballot box, about policies, about diseases like Ebola. All of those things come into play.
So our view of what happens abroad can even affect our decisions back home.